Last we spoke, Donald Trump was desperately, for the first time maybe ever, trying to regain his superpower, trying to be able to grab attention and refocus it. His mob was not behaving. They were still insisting on paying attention to the Epstein files. If you read the New York Times today, this is Monday the 21st, then they declare that he has succeeded. I think that that is wildly premature, but it is the case that over the course of last week, in the wake of a Wall Street Journal article, speaking of a fairly incriminating letter from Trump to Jeffrey Epstein sent back in 2003, Trump has managed, and this is what he does, he has managed to give his mob another squirrel to go chase. That was this Tulsi Gabbard conspiracy theory claiming that Barack Obama somehow shifted the focus of the intelligence community assessment back in 2016, and that it's not even clear what she's arguing, because her conspiracy theory is completely unrelated to the actual investigation into Donald Trump, which was elicited because Mike Flynn tried to undermine the sanctions that Obama put on Russia in late 2016, because 5 of Trump's top aides, the coffee boy, the campaign manager, the personal lawyer, the national security advisor, and the rat fucker, they were all adjudged to have lied, either in guilty pleas or the guilty verdict against Roger Stone or a judgment from Amy Berman Jackson against Paul Manafort. All 5 of them were ruled to have lied to cover up stuff about Trump's ties to Russia in the 2016 election. That's a scandal. And then one other thing, her conspiracy theory is that the intelligence community in 2016, in September through December of 2016, were primarily focused on whether or not Russia was going to be able to alter the votes. And then in early December of 2016, the CIA obtained new information. And one of the things that this probably includes is intelligence from the Dutch intelligence, who saw Russian spies controlling the Guccifer 2.0 figure. Another thing that they seem to have discovered in late 2016 is one of the means by which documents were gotten from the GRU to Julian Assange. But in any case, in December of 2016, Barack Obama was like, hey, when we're doing this assessment, can we take a bigger focus than just whether Russia changed any votes? Can we also focus on the hack and leak operation? Can we focus on the trolling? Interestingly, this doesn't focus on the things Donald Trump claims to care about. Mike Flynn's efforts to undermine the sanctions, the coffee boys' advance notice of the hack and leak operation, Roger Stone's apparent advance notice of the hack and leak operation, which, by the way, the FBI wasn't even on their radar yet at that point in December of 2016. Paul Manafort's August 2, 2016 conversation with Konstantin Kilimnik that lays out the framework of a quid pro quo. We give you campaign strategy, we commit to carve up Ukraine, and you pay Paul Manafort millions of dollars or excuse millions of dollars of debt. Like, none of that was included in the ICA. All of that is the substance of the investigation against Donald Trump. Nevertheless, they've got their panties in a twist because Barack Obama cared about the hack and leak investigation and said, hey, let's broaden what's going on with Russia in December of 2016. Now, one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts about this is that no one has complained that the IC has done this since then. For example, no one is complaining now that the IC far more aggressively responded to the hack and leak effort from Iran last year that targeted Trump. And I'll bracket that. I'm going to come back to that. But the notion that Trump thinks it's treason to investigate what Russia did with the hack and leak campaign in 2016, but not treason to investigate what Iran did with the hack and leak campaign in 2024, I'm going to raise some alarms for you. Nevertheless, this is the conspiracy theory. And what happened, I mean, it's almost absurd. There are multiple things that are absurd about this. First, Trump has already tried this multiple times, right? We've got the Durham investigation. We've got Kash Patel's review of the very same files in 2020. We've got Bill Barr's review. He had another U.S. attorney review these files separately in 2020. We've got the Durham investigation that reviewed all of this from 2019 to 2023. None of those things, all of those people looked at these files. None of those people looked at these files and said, oh my God, this is treason. In fact, what they said is, there's nothing here. There's nothing criminal. There may have been people with dislike of Trump, but there's nothing criminal. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, not a lawyer, has decided that this is treason. And, you know, I was playing a bit over the weekend and I was like, if what Tulsi Gabbard says is correct, then Kash Patel and John Durham, but Kash Patel has to be part of the deep state conspiracy because he looked at these files in 2020 when, if it were true that something had happened, then he could have maybe, you know, changed the outcome of the 2020 election. But Kash didn't find this conspiracy in 2020. And so either Kash Patel is part of the deep state or Tulsi's full of shit. Now, Tulsi, in fact, is full of shit. The way in which she claims this is conspiracy theory, there are two key parts to it. The most important key part is, as I said, September, December, the IAC is focused primarily on were any votes changed. And then starting in September, in December, the IAC is like, okay, what else happened? And Tulsi very dishonestly portrays some reporting from early December of 2016, which, by the way, I covered in detail in real time, showing the nuance of how this change went about. But what Tulsi does is she takes coverage that is talking about this new expanded frame. Did Russia's hack and leak affect the election? Of course it did.
WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks. These WikiLeaks, as confirmed just today by WikiLeaks. It's been amazing what's coming out on WikiLeaks. They want to distract us from WikiLeaks. Boy, that WikiLeaks has done a job on her, hasn't it?
Hillary Clinton had to spend months responding to Donald Trump's screams about WikiLeaks every day. Did the hack and leak affect the election? Undoubtedly. Did Russia change votes? No. What Tulsi does is conflate those things. She treats them as exactly the same. And based on having done that, based on quoting newspapers out of order, without showing the context, without even giving the URL, she claims treason. So this is the same shit that we've looked over, how many, 4 or 5 times already. There was no treason then, now there is, she says. It's based on this conflation of not knowing, right? So to believe Tulsi Gabbard, you have to be so stupid you don't know the difference between a voting machine, which Russia did not successfully hack, and the DNC server, which every document that came out of the IC affirms Russia did successfully hack. So you have to be so stupid, can't tell the difference between a voting machine and the DNC server. And then the other thing that has happened, right, is this process. And this is the process we've seen over and over again, whereby to affirm your allegiance to Donald Trump, you have to affirm belief in this stuff. And this is why it matters that Tulsi's theory is so obviously bullshit, right? So you have to affirm support for Donald Trump, you have to be willing to go onto Twitter and say, oh my God, Tulsi Gabbard has found the treason we've been looking for 10 years. You have to be willing to look like a fucking moron. And you have to talk about it endlessly, right? Of course, I mean, I've been following Benny Johnson because he really is stupid enough to not know the difference between a voting machine and the DNC server. And he went from seeing holes in Donald Trump's Epstein cover-up.
Yesterday, I had a phone call by a federal official. What do you want us to release? You know, there's bad images. You know, there's bad and nasty stuff there. I don't need that. Nobody needs any abuse material on the internet. That's not what we're asking for. The bloody and insulting idea that we're all like out here calling for the release of child abuse material is probably the most insulting thing about all of this, actually.
Last week and the week before, to now nonstop posting, oh my God, they're going to get him now. They're going to get him now. They're going to get him now. And then to make this campaign more exciting. And really, this generates a kind of almost erotic thrill among especially these men, right? They're like, oh, we're going to get him. We're going to send Barack Obama to jail. Then Donald Trump, and not just Donald Trump, but Donald Trump especially, started sending out memes, including this video meme of Barack Obama being arrested. I do hope that somebody refers to that to Secret Service, because he's still under Secret Service protection, and this is a fantasized assault on a Secret Service protectee. He rolls out mug shots, very akin to what we saw with the Georgia investigation. And obviously, one of the things he's trying to do is avenge the fact that he committed a crime and was charged for it. And he's doing that by inventing this ridiculous non-crime. And oh, by the way, of course, this notion that you're going to arrest Barack Obama after you've established that presidents have broad authority for their official acts, and asking the IC to answer questions happens to be the uncontested official acts of the president. It is a performance. It is a performance. I've been trying to do two things because I think this one is really important to respond to, partly because it's so absurd, and partly because this feels like a pivot point, right? It feels like there was this moment where Trump was losing control, and now he is going to regain control by promising arrests, promising to jail these people. It's the kind of thing that could easily elicit violence. But there are two things I've been talking about. One is this point. Like, if you believe Tulsi Gabbard, then you claim that you don't know the difference between a voting machine and a DNC server. To affirm your loyalty, to affirm belief in this conspiracy theory, you have to adopt such absurd premises. You have to allow Tulsi Gabbard to lie to you so badly, so poorly. Like, at least Bill Barr was a good liar. Tulsi Gabbard is a really terrible liar, right? Of course they're willing to do it. This is the process. Of course they are willing to state their loyalty to Donald Trump. But then the other thing that I already alluded to is, and I did a post on this, I said, if this is true, if it is true that there was evidence of treason, that all of the people who tried before, Bill Barr, Kash Patel, John Durham, the SSCI committee led by Marco Rubio, now Secretary of State, if it's true that people reviewed these very same documents and didn't find them in 2019, 2020, 2023, that means that they're part of the deep state. And when I've been doing this, the response has been a little bit interesting, because they went, a good number of these people, and I knew that there was this, and like when John Durham didn't find what he set out to find, he very much wanted to find the treason that Tulsi Gabbard claims that she did find. When he didn't find it, the leopards started eating his face. And so I thought it would be pretty easy to get them to eat his face this time around. And of course they did. Oh, Bill Barr ordered John Durham not to find anything. I mean, this thing is so ridiculous anyway. Like, how did Barack Obama commit treason? By asking the IC a question in 2016 after having conceded the election to Donald Trump, without trying to do anything about the election of Donald Trump, without trying to prevent him from taking power. And if this was so powerful, why would not Joe Biden have used it in 2024? It's so ridiculously nonsensical and so obviously dishonest. But Kash Patel, right? If this is true, Kash Patel looked at these files and said nothing to Donald Trump in 2020. And that really puzzles these people. That sort of, I think from some people, that has quieted them down. And then more recently, I have started saying with particular people like Rep. Luna, I was like, well, why are you helping Donald Trump cover up for sex trafficking? Because obviously this is an effort to refocus away from Epstein. So that's where this campaign is going. It is this remarkable moment of something we've seen over and over and over again. It's not new. And again, they tried with these exact same files over. I mean, I caught I caught Bill Barr altering Peter Strzok notes in 2020, caught him in the act, but they were trying to do exactly the same thing. They were trying to frame, at that point, Joe Biden in opening the investigation into Mike Flynn. The theory is all the same. The documents have never changed. There has never been evidence of this in the documents. They've looked over and over and over again. But Trump's rubes are still willing to step up and perform this obeisance again. And my question is there a way to disrupt this, either by pointing at Kash Patel or by accusing them truly of helping to cover up for a sex trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein?